Another one. Another one. Touchdown Jags! Ball game!
Another Jags podcast.
Welcome everyone to another Jags podcast, episode 37. We're excited about this episode because we're not talking about a Jags loss anymore. We're talking about what is to come, and that is the Jaguars going to Dallas and playing in Jerry's World against the Cowboys Sunday. It's a 4 o'clock kick this Sunday, so that's something. I don't know whether you like that or not, or your preference is, but nonetheless, that's when they'll be playing. So we're going to be talking about that, what we expect. I don't know how much weight you can put because we expected a lot of things last week against Kansas City, and most of those things did not come true, except for Joey predicting that Blake Bortles, I should say, would throw for 400 yards, which he did. We actually had someone on Twitter call him out about that. Jason, you got that real quick for us?
Yes, I do. And this is from one of our favorite followers, Sarah, and she's at Sarah Gresham. She says, someone tell Joey to never predict Bortles throwing for 400 yards ever again.
We will. We will pass that along to him because tonight it is only Jason and myself. We have some guys that are sick. Joey and Robert are out. So it's just the two of us tonight. So you'll be.
We actually watch the games, so that works out.
It does. It does. You know, we research and we read and we care. Actually, I think really the message is we care.
Yeah.
We'll fight through injury. We'll fight through sickness. We'll fight through our daughters being in the ER to be on the podcast, which has happened before. Yeah. Before we get to what we expect in the game, all the matchups that we like, that we don't like, we want to remind everyone that we are on Twitter at Another Jags Pod. So if you want to give us a question or call us out or whatever, make sure to reach out to us. We love hearing from y'all. We crack up at some of the stuff y'all say, and we love the questions because a lot of times it's stuff that we haven't thought about. So it adds to the show. So continue to please reach out to us. We appreciate it. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Another Jags Podcast. If that's your platform of preference, you can reach out to us there. You can also find us on YouTube at Another Jags Podcast. Just type that in and all of our shows will pop up for you. Or go to our website that we do have, anotherjagspodcast.com. And that'll point you in all the directions you need to go concerning our podcast. So let's jump right in, Jason. Let's get right to it. Let's get to some big news that happened this week for the Jaguars. On Tuesday, they addressed the running back situation as Grant is gone for the year, and we have no idea when Leonard Fournette is going to return. The Jags signed running back Jamal Charles, former Chief, and had a brief stint with the Denver Broncos. So let's get right into that. Jason, what's your knee-jerk reaction to Jamal Charles being a Jaguar?
I don't really know what to think. I feel like I haven't heard of anything significant happening from him in years. I know he's had like 200 total carries in the last 3 years. That usually doesn't bode well for a running back. I know he had a decent year in, what was it, like 2014 or something like that. 2014, he had 1,000 yards. So 2012, he had 1,500 yards. I mean, that would have led the league in rushing last year. But he is on the wrong side of 31, about to turn 32. So maybe, I don't know, 6 carries until Fournette gets back. I still think Yeldon gets the bulk, but I think they just have that precautionary measure in case.
Yeah, I mean, he's a name, so a lot of people are, I think, overreacting to the signing because if you follow the NFL and have for a few years, you know the name Jamal Charles. He was, like you said, in 2012, which is 6 years ago, by the way, 1,500 yards. So he was a stud in his prime, but that was a while ago. He is rested, so he's fresh. Obviously, the Jags signed him because he was in shape. They wouldn't have signed him if he hadn't passed a physical. For the Broncos last year, I believe it was, he was a healthy scratch the last 2 games of the year. So the Broncos, who were completely out of it last year, thought enough of him to not even have him dress for the last 2 games of the season. What I like about him is he's saying all the right things. In all of his interviews, he said he wanted to come to Jacksonville specifically because we have a chance to win the Super Bowl. He wants to win a Super Bowl.
But do you believe that?
No, not really, because I don't know if he was exactly fielding all these other calls,
exactly.
You know.
I mean, if it almost would have been like they gave me a job, I'd almost respect that more.
Right. But, you know, at the same time, it fits the narrative of the team right now, which is Super Bowl. So at least he's saying that, you know, and he could have said anything else. So I like that. In the words of our good friend Joey. I think he's going to have a big chip on his shoulder, a lot like we saw with Adrian Peterson when he got signed by the Redskins this year. He's going to come out. These athletes, I'm talking about top-tier athletes, their mindset is that they are never done, that they can come back and compete at the highest level no matter what their age. And we've really seen that to not be true. I mean, Jerry Rice this year said he thinks he can still compete in the NFL, which is crazy. But I do believe that. He thinks that 100%. So, I think Jamaal Charles feels the same way. Like, he wants to come in and show people what he can do. But I agree with you. I think he's going to be almost more like Grant was to Yeldon. It's not going to be like he's the featured back. I'd be surprised if that happens.
I think something that's interesting is if you take out, he's been in the league since 2008. If you take out the year 2016 when he only carried the ball 12 times, he was injured all year. He has never had a season where he's averaged less than 4.3 yards per carry. So that's good. He knows how to get yards per carry, which is what we need at this point. He will be a spell back to Yeldon, but interesting to see how long he sticks around with the team. I'm glad they did something. I mean, we talked on the last podcast about how they need to do something. They have to address it somehow. So, that's funny. I don't think anyone was even thinking or talking about Jamaal Charles until they signed him, which is funny.
They came out of nowhere for sure. It is a 1-year deal. And going back to saying how he was injured, the injuries that he had were an ACL tear on both knees. So we're not talking about he stubbed his toe. These are major injuries. But at the same time, a lot of time has passed since those. I'm optimistic, I guess, but at the same time, like you said, he's on the wrong side of 31. You don't see a lot of productive 32-year-old running backs in the NFL anymore. It's just the nature of the beast. So I would have everyone that's super excited because of the name Jamaal Charles pump your brakes a little bit and understand the context of the situation. Yeldon is going to still be the featured back. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. I think the only way that changes is if Yeldon gets hurt. They also signed David Williams as well. So, it's not just like Jamaal Charles was the only signing. So we'll see what they do there. But, yeah, I'm just glad they addressed it, for crying out loud. And I don't know. I do like the fact that he's a veteran. I don't think they're going to have to coach him much. He's going to be able to go right in and know the playbook pretty quickly. He's been in the situation before rather than, I heard a lot of people saying the Jags should get someone off a practice squad that might be a rookie or a late-round pick. What's his name?
Bo Scarborough.
Scarborough was a big name that was coming up, but that's a guy that you would have to bring in and really coach the position and teach him a lot. With Jamaal Charles, you're not going to have to do that. He's a veteran. He knows the position. Tell me where to go, what the blocking formation is, and let him take it. So I'm interested to see what happens this week against Dallas. That's a tough test. How many carries do you see him getting in this game?
6,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean
Max.
That's about the Corey Grant numbers. So that's what I would expect as well. I think at the most it'll be. I mean, and this is really thinking optimistically is split carries, but I don't see him being featured at all.
That.
I mean, I don't either. But
because Yeldon is playing well. So unless he's injured, I mean, if he's injured, then Charles becomes the feature back.
Yeah, there you go. Then we have to sign someone else.
What about David Greenidge, the new tight end we signed? Do anything for you?
No, not at all. I don't know who he is.
He's 6'5", 250 pounds out of NC State. Pretty big guy.
Yeah.
He was on our preseason roster. We cut him, and so we brought him back.
One of that's to. I mean, I would imagine that's going to be to block, not to catch.
He is a good pass catcher, but he is a good blocker. He is better blocker than we may have on the team outside of Niles Paul.
And clearly, based on last week's game, we need some help blocking up front.
He's not really, like you said, that wide tight end, but yeah, he could do run blocking, pass blocking. He's had some back issues, but we needed someone with ASJ gone. I'm surprised we didn't bring in the other dude from preseason, was Orndorff or whatever his name was.
Oh yeah, Orndorff or something.
Orndorff,
he caught a touchdown in the preseason.
Yeah. I thought he would be the guy we'd sign.
Maybe he got picked up by someone else.
Yeah, maybe, but we'll see. I don't expect him to play a lot unless he's in that blocking role. Maybe they'll go back to that 2 tight end set we saw last year a bunch, but who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. But all right, so I guess temper your enthusiasm a little bit, Jags fans, and we'll see just how much they use him this Sunday and the weeks going forward. Sunday, 4:00, Jags at Cowboys. What is going to cause the Jags to win that game?
Well, I think the defense scores a couple touchdowns will win the game for sure.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting because I don't think we've played a team yet this year who's had a dominant running back. I'm trying to think through the teams.
Kareem Hunt is good.
But he's not what I would call dominant.
I would say going into the first game of the year, Saquon Barkley scared me.
Yeah.
I'm
with you there. But Ezekiel Elliott is another level.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
That guy is single-handedly has the Cowboys where they're at now. I mean, he is the best player by a mile on that team. I think we match up well against the run. I mean, Kareem Hunt could not run the ball against us. That was one impressive thing about our defense was the run defense was amazing.
He popped off a couple, didn't he?
Were they on run plays or were they on like pass plays, screen plays?
They may have been on.
I think
screens.
they were on like screens and short dump offs. But I mean, against the run, for the most part, we did really well. I don't know what we're gonna do against Ezekiel Elliott. Zach Martin, a really good guard. They have a really good blocking tight end in Jeff Swaim. Lael Collins, the tackle from LSU. They're pretty stout along the front on the line. So it should be interesting. Interesting to see. So that's my thing I'm looking forward to the most about the game.
Yeah. I mean, this is a hard one to predict for me because the Cowboys are a lot like the Jaguars, and it's Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know what you're going to get from them from one week to the next. I mean, 2 weeks ago, they beat, I think it was the Lions in overtime, huge win, and then they go to Houston on the road, a team that I think most people would say Cowboys are better than, and lose to them in overtime, only put up 13 points. And Houston's defense is better than I think we've given them credit for. At least they're showing that so far. We talked in our last episode about the Jags coaching and their questionable play calling. I mean, you want to talk about a fan base that's upset about their coach's play calling, go ask some Cowboys how they feel about Jason Garrett moving forward. So this is a really, really hard one to predict. I will say this, though. It's only the 6th game of the year, and we don't want to overreact too much because the Jags are 3-2. If they lose this, they're 3-3, which you don't want to be. We would have thought they would be better than that. This might be a must-win for the Jags. Are you ready to say that yet this early in the season?
No, I'm not.
Here's why I think it is. Not because of where it'll put them schedule-wise, but because of what it says for them as a team. They're not coming home to a home game. They have to go back on the road after what I would say getting embarrassed.
Yeah.
Against Kansas City. Now they have to go back on the road. It's going to be a 4:25 kick, so it's going to be a lot of national coverage. Obviously, it's the Cowboys who get a lot of national notoriety and recognition and all that stuff. It's a must-win for me because this is going to show a lot of people who the Jags are, who they are, and what they're made of. Can they bounce back and beat a team that a lot of us going into the season thought that they should beat? I think Ezekiel Elliott is going to be is a monster, and they're going to have to game plan for him. But outside of that, they have no tight end. They have no real wide receivers. I mean, Hearns is their number one, and he caught his first touchdown of the season just this past week against Houston. So if you can stop Ezekiel Elliott, then they have no answer.
Yeah, Tavon Austin is playing better now. He was a little banged up to start this season. But Ezekiel Elliott gives you a lot in the passing game, too. He's a really good runner, but he's a good pass blocker, and he's a good receiver. So.
He's really their number one receiver.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, he's all around their best guy. I mean, like I said, Tavon Austin has so much speed. You always want to account for him. Blake Jarwin, decent tight end. Like we said, Jeff Swaim, pretty good tight end. He's grading out pretty well, So
he's not someone that you go into a game concerned about, though.
No, not really.
Kind of like our tight ends, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of a push.
But the thing that does scare me is Dak Prescott can run the ball, and he's a mobile quarterback. And the Jags have struggled against mobile quarterbacks and quarterbacks that can get outside the pocket. And it almost seems like Dak Prescott is looking to get outside the pocket every single play. I just watched their game that they played this last Monday night against the Texans, and the Texans D-line is pretty good. I'll give you that. But Dak Prescott is reading one receiver and then running. Mm-hmm. That's what he's doing. And the fans I know are getting upset about that because that's not a good recipe to win in the NFL, but it has been shown to make the Jaguars struggle. So I hope we can have some sort of contain pass rush, which I think is what we tried to do against Mahomes, and ended up giving him a lot of time in the pocket, which is frustrating to see. But I don't know. I mean, that scares me as much as their receivers do, though, to your point.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Jags coaching staff, I go back and watch the Tennessee game and look at how they failed as a defense containing Mariota, because if they can contain Dak Prescott, I think the coverage is going to be there for our corners. I just think our corners are so much better than their wide receivers. You had said they tried to do that with Mahomes to contain him and keep him in the pocket, but it didn't work. Well, that's because Kansas City has way better wide receivers and tight ends than Dallas does. I mean, Dallas, you can't even come close to compare those two position groups between the Chiefs and the Cowboys. So if they can contain Prescott, I think the coverage is going to hold up long enough to where they can get sacks and they can get in his face. And to me, it's really going to be about not letting Ezekiel Elliott beat the Jaguars. If they can keep him under wraps, at least not let him have a monster game, I think the Jags can win this game. I don't think this is going to be a pretty game at all. I don't see a lot of points scored. It could be very similar to the Cowboys-Texans game, a 16-13, 20-17 maybe at the most. I think that could be the extent of it. I think our game ball could go to Lambeau.
I was going to say, is our offense going to be able to score?
It's field position. It's going to be a field position game. If our defense can keep them at bay and we can get the ball at midfield and get a couple first downs and Lambeau can kick a couple 50-yarders, like you said, if the defense can score a touchdown or at least put us in position for our offense to have an easier drive to score a touchdown. But no, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a shootout by any means. I don't think, so far Blake has been good, bad for the most part. He was bad last week. I don't see him having a great game in this game. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see that. I think it's going to be an ugly win, which I'll gladly take. I'll say this. I think it'll look a lot like the Giants game, if that gives you a point of reference.
Okay, that's pretty good. I like that. But we got to remember, this Dallas defense has significantly more speed on it than the Chiefs defense did. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence, Taco Charlton, Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith, Randy Gregory. These guys are monsters.
Randy Gregory still on their team? Anyway.
But they have speed. I mean, even Tyrone Crawford, one of their interior defensive linemen, is good. Is a good player. Byron Jones, their defensive back, pretty good. Anthony Brown, pretty good. Their linebackers, like I said, Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch, those are fast guys, and they're playing really, really good this year. So don't expect this underneath game and this short game to work against the Cowboys, which is scary because that's the only way I think we've been able to move the ball. Mm-hmm. So again, I think it's another game we're going to have to test them vertically, which is frustrating because that is where we probably aren't great.
Well, yeah, and one of the reasons we're not great is because our offensive line doesn't give Blake enough time. I mean, it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Blake, in his deep balls against Kansas City, it wasn't like he overthrew his receivers a little bit, but which I'll take on a deep ball. You don't want to underthrow the receiver.
Right.
That's when you get in trouble. So, I think he's okay at it, but our receivers got to get better separation, and our offensive line, please give Blake a little more time. Roma was saying in the broadcast against the Chiefs in that game that, you get hit a certain amount of times as a quarterback, it starts getting in your head, and you start throwing poorly because you're just expecting to get hit, which I get. That's just no one wants to get hit. So they need to do a better job up front of giving him time. If that's going to be the game plan, deep balls, which I don't feel comfortable with. I don't think anyone really does. But at this point, what do? Leonard Fournette is out. He's been ruled out. He's not playing in the game. He didn't even travel to Kansas City. He's probably not going to travel to Dallas. I don't know why he would. Yeesh. This is a lot scarier of a game now than it was before the season started. I'll say that. You don't know. You don't know which Dallas team is going to show up, and you don't know which Jaguars team is going to show up. But I'll say this. I think the Jags will respond really well coming off of that Kansas City game because they are a team that has a ton of pride. Some people say too much, that they need to start shutting their mouth and stop talking so much because they're not. Whatever. I don't agree with that at all. You continue to be who you're going to be, but it could be I don't know what the spread is, but I would say it's going to be a small spread, if not a pick 'em. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. If I was a betting man, I would stay away from this game big time.
Well, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
One thing I'd like to see them do, which I don't know why they haven't tried this in the past, is drop Blake back on like a 3-step drop, and then try to like throw the ball off of an offensive lineman's helmet, and then try to bounce it off the helmet to a receiver that's like running a slant.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a really underutilized play.
Sure.
And he may not hit it. He may throw a pick on it some plays, but I think if he can just get the right angle off of the helmet, he might be able to get the ball into the spot he needs to get it to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could work. I think something else that could work is trying to throw the ball away, to the side, like into the ground. Maybe doing a ricochet off one of your players' ankles.
Yeah, that could work. Yeah.
And where, again, you have your other receiver streaking in front and he catches it on the run. But, a lot of that is you got to play the angles. You got to know your geometry.
And you got to commit to it. You can't go in halfway. You're going to throw a pick.
Absolutely. So we'll see if they pull that out. I don't know if they will.
Knowing Nathaniel Hackett, you never know.
And that's the thing, is this isn't just a bounce back game for the players. This is a bounce back game for the coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, who do you give between Jason Garrett and Doug Marrone right now, coming off of last week? Who do you give the nod to coaching wise in this game?
I don't blame Marrone for his I just blame Marrone for not being involved enough.
Yeah.
Like when Marrone has the headset on and he hears Nathaniel Hackett call a fade route on 3rd and 2 and you're going for it on 4th down, you got to get on the headset and be like, timeout. No, we're not doing that. That's what a head coach does. That's his job.
Right.
On that play, not to harp on it, in the Kansas City game where they were on the 2-yard line.
Harp away. It's deserving of being harped.
They didn't even have another read on that play. He dropped back, looked right at Moncrief, and threw it. He didn't even have another read on that play. What were they thinking on that play? But then you look at Jason Garrett, and it's overtime, and you punt it on 4th and 1. Are you trying to tie? Is that what the strategy was? Is to tie? So
you know what he said? Why he justified punting on that play on 4th and 1 in overtime with 2 minutes left? Said it was a long one. Yeah, you've drafted Ezekiel Elliott as basically as your team, as your identity. You have this monster offensive line, and even a quarterback who can run, and you punt it. I mean, on the road too. On the road, that's when you go for it. Yeah. You go for it. To me, but
it's a long one, man.
It's a long one. That's a long 3 feet right there. So yeah, I mean, I still like Marrone a lot. I agree. Hackett just he laid an egg last week. So this is a bounce back game for the coaches. And I did hear it was long after the fact that even after the Jets game that the Jags won, a lot of us were happy about that. Marrone was not happy about that game. He was really mad, and even a lot of the players said that. And it kind of followed them into the game against Kansas City. So, they responded really well against the Titans, but they were playing at home against the Jets. It's a little easier to respond against the Jets at home than it is Dallas on the road. So we'll see what they do. They've been a resilient bunch so far, but I don't know. 4-2 is a lot different than 3-3 in this league. It is a lot different.
So what do you think? Score predictions. What do you think?
18. I'm going to say 18-9. I'm going to say it's a field goal game, man.
18.
Yeah. Weird number, I know.
That is a weird number.
Yeah, very weird number. But that's what I'm going to kind of hover around. Right. Six field goals. 6 field goals.
That would be something.
Yeah.
That would be good for my fantasy team because I have a Lambeau, the only Jaguar I have on the team, unfortunately. I'm going to say 21-17.
Okay, a little more traditional.
21-17. Yep. I like to stick with it. Jags win. That's I think Ezekiel, it's a good player. I think defense gets a score. Jags play super conservative, punt a lot of punting on both teams, and we just find a way to hold on to the ball at the end of the game and run the clock out.
You had said in the game in our episode, when we were recapping the Kansas City game, episode 36, I think it was. I don't know. I've lost count. That the Jaguars' defense is a bend, don't break. And I think you're going to see that on both sides this week. It's going to be bend, don't break, inside the 20-yard line, get them in the red zone, and just hold them to a field goal. And hope that you can do that more than the other team. I'd love to see us get in the end zone. I just don't know how. I mean, I really don't. With Fournette, look, this Fournette story, is getting bigger and bigger by the week. I don't know if we've really even talked about it enough on this podcast. The guy's banged up. When you're ruled out on Monday, before the next week's game that you're not playing, that's legit. That means he's not practicing. He's not even close. They're not even dangling that out there for the Cowboys to possibly game plan him. His absence is getting more and more noticeable by the week. When he comes back, who knows? It might not be till after the bye, which we have 2 more games after this one before the bye. So that's a long ways away. So what do? Like you said, can Dallas take away those underneath crossing routes that the Jags do so well with all that speed? Probably. So then the question becomes, can Blake throw it over the top? He didn't do it enough against Kansas City. I don't know how you can change that in 1 week. So field position game, Logan Cook, pin him deep. He's done a great job of that so far. And hope that you get close enough for Lambeau to do his thing, because he's a stud. He is an absolute stud. I'm riding the Lambeau train this week.
I mean, there's the possibility that we just stick with Yeldon and he actually does well throughout the entire game, and that he consistently gets 5 yards per carry and he just leads the team to a win.
Yeah.
An easy win.
I mean, is he healthy enough? I don't read a lot about his health, but you would have to think that he must be banged up for them not to give him the ball more. I mean, what is the concern? He was having a great game against Kansas City. Again, I don't want to go back to that, but you're right. I mean, why not just, he's the premier running back and see what he can do? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, until they stop it, I mean, that's always been my strategy when doing stuff. If something works, don't change it.
Right.
So if they can't stop Yeldon, then keep running.
Okay.
So, I mean, hopefully we see that. I'm a big fan of Yeldon's. I think he's stepped up tremendously this year, and, the last guy healthy on our running back core. So I'd like to see him do well this week, and I hope he does. But you know what? I'm going to make that my bold prediction.
Okay, go ahead. We're about to go into that segment anyway. So what is your bold prediction?
Yeah, I'm going to say TJ Yeldon has 112 yards rushing for 2 touchdowns.
112? Are those both rushing touchdowns?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, man, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, while we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and give my bold prediction as well. And I'm going to say that DJ Chark had a great game. Last game could be his coming out party, but I'm going to say go back to D.D. Westbrook. Because I don't know, he had some catches in the second half that are like, okay, there you are. And every time he touches the ball, I love it. So I'm going to say he goes for 120 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns.
How many receptions?
8.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking 8. That's okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say 7, but I'll go 8. Get a little more conservative there. I don't know. It just seems to me like he's the one that's kind of breaking through in terms of being that number 1 guy. I would love to see Chark do some more too, though. I'd love to see that. Get some production out of your 2nd round pick, for crying out loud. And I'm gonna say something else, something we haven't talked about. I'm gonna go ahead and say, I'm not sure if any other Jaguars podcast is gonna talk about this. But this could be an interesting game for our special team coach Joe DeCamillis, former Cowboys special teams coach.
Yeah.
So going back home, do we see a fake punt or some razzle dazzle in the special teams?
There's a lot of that kind of going on with Hearns and playing
that's true.
Revenge game with the Jags, and there'll be a lot of those little interesting dynamics going on this week.
It'll be fun to watch Boye and Ramsey line up against Hearns.
Yeah. And Jalen Ramsey's been talking all week about how he feels disrespected that the Cowboys didn't draft him.
Yeah, that too.
And we all know Ramsey likes him some respect on his name.
Yes, he does.
So.
And I will say, of all the matchups in this game, the one that favors the Jags most, in my opinion, is our corners versus their wide receivers. I just think that is such a huge advantage for us. That's why if we can just contain Dak Prescott in the pocket, let our receivers play man, and just let's get coverage sack after coverage sack. I mean, does Hearns really scare you?
No, but what concerns me is like Ezekiel Elliott in the passing game.
I get that. I'm talking about just corners and wide receivers.
Okay.
And then just shadow him, Shadow Ezekiel. Tell Myles Jack, no, I guess he can't be, but put Gibson or Church or someone on him and just spy him out the entire game. He's going to get his yards. He's too good of a player to not get his yards. So But it could be like an Odell Beckham type yardage where he gets them, but they're almost like non-factor-ish type yards. I'm not going to go that far, but
I know what you mean. Like he could end the game with 100 yards rushing and they lose.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that could happen. But, Saquon Barkley, that kind of happened to him. He peels off a 67-yarder, and his numbers look really good on paper. It was one run,
right.
and that could easily happen with Elliott. I think he's gonna get his yards, but just don't let him own the game. Don't let him own the play clock or anything like that. And so, we'll see. But, I would love to see Jadon Mickens actually, when he catches a punt, maybe try and run it. That'd be awesome.
I liked how they did the little fake where they ran, like the first kickoff, they ran the other returner behind Jadon Mickens and he faked the pitch.
Yeah.
I wonder if we see the actual pitch this week.
Maybe.
Because it looked like it was there. I mean, I was watching on TV, so I don't have nearly the angle. They haven't come out with the coach's film yet. But it seemed like he had the pitch there.
Yeah, I mean, he's underwhelmed, I think, so far. I mean, there's only so much you can ask out of a punter. He hasn't muffed a punt, so there's that.
That's true.
There is that.
That's true. He hasn't fumbled.
Yeah. And I guess if you have to, ask anything, it's don't do that,
right?
Which he hasn't, so that's good. But so we'll see. I don't know. This is the first game of the entire season where I haven't felt really sure about certain things.
Well, it's the offense. You don't know what to expect. You don't know if they're going to score any points.
No.
If they don't score till the fourth quarter again, there's no way we win.
No.
It's the bottom line. If you can't score till the fourth quarter against the Chiefs, who are the worst defense in the league,
right,
playing everyone's going to concern you. I mean, that's how I feel anyway. So,
yeah, absolutely.
If we continue this streak of win loss, we're due for a big game. So.
Yep. Okay, so we have our bold predictions. We've given our score predictions. So let's talk about the rest of the division and where things are going to be after week 6. I
think the only person that got any of those games right were you. Did someone else pick the Texans to beat the Cowboys? I think maybe you and Joey were the only ones to get any of the games right.
Yeah.
Because we all picked the Titans. We all picked the Colts to lose. Or the Colts did lose, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
So we got that game right.
Yeah, I mean, everyone got that game right. They're playing the Patriots at home.
No, I mean, I picked the Cowboys, and they Jason Garrett disappointed me. 4th and 1, he had the best running back in the NFL. Let's punt the ball in overtime. That's
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so this week the Titans are playing at home against the Ravens. That game is also at 4:25 for anyone that cares.
Nope.
So same time as the Jags game. What do you think about that one?
Oh, gosh. Ravens, I think, because the Ravens will score and the Titans won't. And that's pretty much it.
Yep. And the Ravens are coming off a hard loss against the Browns.
Oh,
crazy. Yeah. Where they scored, I don't know how many points they scored, like 12 maybe. I think the Ravens bounce back and win that game. But I don't know, man. Tennessee is a weird team.
It's hard to know. I mean,
yeah, but they can't score points. They can't score points.
They're consistently have a bad offense.
Yes, they do. And that's been all season long. So I'm going to pick the Ravens in that one for sure. The Colts are playing the Jets in New York. Jets had a pretty good game this past Sunday.
Yeah. They're another wildly inconsistent team just like everyone else.
Yes, they are. I mean, it's the league. It's parity everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's a week-to-week league. It's crazy. I'm going to go, you picked first in the Titans-Ravens game, so I'll go first on this one. I'm going to say, I think the Colts win on the road in this one. I'm going to take Andrew Luck over Sam Darnold in this one. That's really what I'm focusing in on.
Okay. I like that. I'm going to have to say that the Jets win at home, and I think playing at home is going to be a big advantage for them. And I just think the Colts struggle on defense a lot, and the Jets have a decent staple of running backs. Bilal Powell.
Crowell went off this past week.
Isaiah Crowell. I like Anua, their receivers. I think Sam Darnold's kind of coming into his own. So, yeah, Eric Tomlinson, a really good blocking tight end. Decent offensive line. Those guys are playing better than anyone thought they would. So I just think the Colts are almost there. I think next year they'll be all right, but I think the Jets win at home.
Okay. I certainly hope so. I'll be rooting for the Jets, but I don't know. I don't know why I'm so hung up on the Colts. I think they are, like you said, they're headed in the right direction.
Yeah,
so
they're close.
They're
close.
They are. Jags fans need to be a little leery of them going forward. Not this year, but maybe next year. Okay, lastly, we have the Texans coming off a big win Sunday night win against the Dallas Cowboys, playing at home 1:00 on Sunday against the Bills. Think about that one.
I think the Bills win.
Really? 2 in a
Yeah.
row for the Bills?
Yeah.
Josh Allen, you a believer?
No, but I just think the Bills win. I just don't have much faith in the Texans. And I'll tell you one thing about Deshaun Watson is everyone's crying about how he has a bad offensive line. He's getting beat up. That dude is a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, that's
He holds the ball way too long. He doesn't slide ever. He creates contact when he's a rusher or when he's a runner. The guy is his own fault he's getting hit. I mean, there was so many plays he could have gotten rid of the ball, thrown it away, or slid, and he just takes an abusing hit from the defender. And it's like, dude, don't blame the offensive line. You're the one that scrambled outside of the pocket and sat there with the rusher coming at you and waited for your receiver to get open. I get it. He's a gutsy quarterback, but he's not going to finish the year. Absolutely no way he finishes the year. If he takes half of the hits he took last game against the Cowboys, then there's absolutely no way he finishes the year. But in this game, I just think they get overmatched.
Okay. I hope so. I'm going to take the Texans again in this one just because it's at home. DeAndre Hopkins is
He's
a
good.
freak.
Yeah,
I mean, did you see that last catch he had in overtime?
He's had a great game in general.
Yeah, he did. But that last catch with the 2 spin moves, unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. So I'm going to take the Texans in that one, which means, according to me, the only team in the AFC South that loses this week is Tennessee, which would not be great. I mean, it would be good in terms of just Jaguars, but I'd like to see them all lose, except for the Jaguars, of course. But I don't know. The Bills won. I don't know if they're a win 2 in a row team yet.
Well, Shady McCoy's back now, and he's playing.
That's true.
He's playing healthier football, and so that helps because he's a game changing back.
He is. Josh Allen's got to make some throws. He didn't have a great game against the Titans. I don't think he threw for like 160 yards. I mean, this off the top of my head. I'm not 100%, but it wasn't like he was the reason they won.
Right.
He was the reason they didn't lose though as well. So you got to hand him to that. No like crucial turnovers or stupid. He wasn't throwing the ball off anyone's helmet or anything like that. Just crazy stuff. Yeah, I don't know. There's just none of the teams in the AFC South scare me. I think we're going to be okay. We're going to win our division. We're going to get a home game. But this is a big game.
Yeah.
I'm calling it a must win. And again, not because I think we can't, go on a run after this. I want it to be, it's a must win to prove the character and the resiliency of this team. Go into Dallas, a hard place to play, and beat a pretty good team on the road. Show us what you're made of. You've talked the talk, walk the walk. Let all the Jags fans forget about the KC game. Let's get that winning taste back in our mouth, and then come home for a big divisional game against Houston, which, spoiler alert, I'm going to go ahead and pick us to win that game as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I can't call it a must-win because it's not even a divisional game. I think if we keep playing the way we're playing poorly, then all of our divisional games become must-wins, which is unfortunate because at the beginning of the year, I thought we would have swept the division. But, it is big.
Let me ask you this. If they go into Dallas, because our 2 losses have been pretty ugly losses.
Yes.
If they have another ugly loss, whatever that looks like to you, I mean, really, though, how are you feeling about this team?
If they have another ugly loss, I'm feeling pretty bad.
Yeah, that's my point.
If they go in there and win, I'm not feeling good. That's the only problem. If they go in there and play good and win, I'm just expecting them to play bad the next week.
Right.
So I don't. It's just I'm in a tough spot right now.
Mm-hmm.
I need a little more time. I need some time to cook. I need some time to marinate.
Right.
And figure out what this team is really all about. Let the depth kind of rise to the top on who's going to play in these positions where we're injured. And
how long is that going to take for the Jags? I mean, what
did it take last year? It took till like week 8 last year, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
So
about half the season.
But it took, like you said, about halfway through the year.
Yeah.
And then even our back half of the season wasn't that great.
No.
So.
Being a Jags fan is hard. Come on, guys. Even when they win, it's like it's inconsistent.
It's like you're scared. You don't know what's going to come next.
I know, every single week. My goodness. But look, we're Jags fans. We're kind of used to it at this point.
Yeah, that's true. And we've been through some dark times, so it's still better than what we've been.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is the truth. We're 3-2. Let's all remember that. Look in the mirror and say we're 3-2.
3-2.
Yeah. There's still several teams in the league that would switch places with us. Only a few that wouldn't, really.
Yeah.
In terms of just record.
I mean, there were seasons when this was all the wins we had for the year.
Yeah. 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we had 3 wins. That's crazy.
There you go.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's all about perspective.
Let's try and make it 4-2.
Yeah.
Let's try and make it 4-2.
All right, that's gonna wrap it up for episode 37 of the Jags podcast. We appreciate you guys listening. We love interacting with you guys. Send us your thoughts on Twitter, Facebook, even Instagram. If you want to do that, you can. We love to hear from you guys. We have a group chat, and anything that's funny, we send through our group chat. So try to send us something funny, or just,
especially if it's about Joey.
Yeah, because we pick on Joey in the group chat. So so feel free to add on to that. So any feedback you have, we'd love to hear it. We're on Twitter at Another Jags Pod, Facebook, Instagram, Another Jags Podcast. Thanks for listening. We will see you guys after we play the Cowboys. And as always, go Jags.